What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where I, Kyle, from Kyle Curtin Real Estate, interview local top dogs in the real estate investing, wealth building, and personal finance industries. Let's build together. What's up, guys? This episode of the podcast had a really cool guest with a super interesting real estate story that is really unique. This episode was packed with a ton of less common information that I was very excited to hear about. In this episode, we talk about jumping into real estate in the 80s, persisting through different mediums for off-market deals, and creating multiple ways to earn from one transaction. There is a stunning story in this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's jump right into the episode. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 26 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Jack Pinard, a seasoned investor with tons of experience located northwest of Boston, as well as the southern New Hampshire market. What's going on, Jack? How
are you, going? My friend?
I am great.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.
The pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to really, kind of dig into your story a bit more.
Cool.
It's definitely really interesting, but the little bit that you've kind of told me so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump right into things. So,
okay.
What initially got you into real estate, and what's kind of your backstory?
Okay, so the backstory is, as you can probably see, since this is Zoom, I'm a little bit more gray hair than maybe some of the investors that you've talked to. But so my backstory is that as a lad, I was a guitar player and very much hoped to build a recording studio. But this was back in the 80s. And as opposed to just having a computer, you needed an entire building worth of equipment, and $300,000 or $400,000. So I, had some friends that were real estate agents and that kind of thing. And started to see that, I might be able to flip some properties and finance the building of this recording studio. So in 87, I got started and bought some properties, did some flips back then, knew virtually nothing. And there was no internet, believe it or not. That's how old I am. So when you wanted to learn stuff, you went to weekend seminars and you bought packages like this of cassette tapes and stuff. But in any event, I got it done. I learned some stuff. I flipped some properties. And then by around 1991, I took that cash that I had and went into building a studio and building a business on that end. And then I've done that recently. In 18, I retired, and I had started going back to flipping just before retirement there. And so I'm back in it and going at it. So, the original impetus was the recording studio, but back now and, trying to do it to enhance my retirement and build something for my kids and all that. So
that is absolutely incredible, Jack. Oh my God.
So there it is.
That is awesome.
So that's how it started. Maybe not like some other people, but I wanted to build a recording studio and I couldn't find any other way to finance it. So
wow, that's awesome. I could just imagine, how it was trying to get into real estate, at that time versus now.
Again, it was, things that you take so for granted now, like just doing a comp on a property, right? You had to go to the registry of deeds and look stuff up,
Wow.
Or, you had to know a real estate agent because, there was no internet. You couldn't do searches. You had to go and get in touch with a real estate agent. And that's basically how I did it. I had friends that were real estate agents and, it was just crazy, so much harder. The information we have now at our fingertips and take for granted, none of it was there. It's funny, we used to make a joke because, again, the only way you could learn about it outside of having mentors locally, there were, gurus of the day that would come to town and hold these weekend seminars, right? And, they would sell literally these packages like this high with, 14 hours of cassette tapes and books and all this stuff. And we used to laugh because, they would say, if you spend $9.95 this weekend, you'll get this package. Look at it. It weighs 12 pounds, and we used to laugh and say, man, I bought 12 pounds worth of knowledge this weekend, but that's how you did it. And that's how I learned. And, you make mistakes, you learn just like you do now. It's just that gathering information and being able to do comps and know who the hard money lenders were out there and all that stuff. It was just it was all networking and referrals and that kind of stuff, because there was just no way of finding it out otherwise.
That's so crazy.
I mean, that was 3 years before I bought my first computer.
So that was a little bit before LinkedIn.
yeah. So but the rest of it, I should say, is very much the same. You still need to network, you still need to know people in the industry, you still need to be able to get in there and see a project through from beginning to end, build scopes of work, price the thing so that it can resell once it's renovated, all that stuff. It's basically the same. It's just that the information's a little bit easier to come by. Wow.
Yeah. That's so crazy. Oh my
God. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But it makes me feel old to tell you that stuff.
No, that's wicked cool though. I can just imagine going, finding out about one of those seminars one weekend and, just going out and getting all this knowledge and.
Yep. And it was always the, midnight infomercials that would plug this stuff, and say, in 2 weeks, this guy's coming to town, it's funny. I've met a couple of older guys over the years that, one of the guys was Carlton Sheets, and we used to laugh because he knew who Carlton Sheets was, and I know virtually no one in the current generation of people probably know who that is, but he was one of those guys. He just said, hey, look, you can buy properties at a discount, and here's some of the ways you can do it. And he just gave me the fever,
Yeah.
So.
Give you the bug.
Yeah. So that's a backstory. It's a little bit longer than some other people's, but.
No, that's really cool though. It's honestly, it's not too often, that I can kind of hear a story like that. And to kind of hear, how it was, at that time is awesome. You know what I mean? That's wow.
Yeah, it was a lot fewer players because of the fact that it was harder to come by,
Yeah.
But like I said, the actual act of flipping a property, pretty much everything about it is the same. The only thing that differed was how you got each step accomplished,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with those seminars and stuff, I can imagine that back then it was probably a lot more valuable than some of the seminars now that you see.
Well, these guys, I mean, when they came to town, they were, you couldn't necessarily, a lot of things now, you see stuff online, they'll say, we'll give you these video tutorials and things like that, that you can access online. Well, of course, none of that stuff was around. So those cassette tapes, that they gave you, that was the closest they could get to media, right?
Yeah.
And so, believe me, I played those things a billion times, driving around in my car playing them, and
Yeah.
because that's what you had,
Yeah.
but that most of them, of course, there were some better than worse, but most of them had to be packed with the info, because once they left town, that was it. That's all you got.
Yeah.
There was nothing, you couldn't go online and say, oh, let me rewatch that second part, and you couldn't sit in the seminar with your iPhone and record the thing,
Yeah.
because mobile phones didn't exist. So they had some value. Again, some were better than others, but there were a few guys that I used very, very much, and really depended on their step-by-step procedures on those cassette tapes to get the first one done. It
Yeah.
was the only people I knew to ask was this cassette tape.
Yeah. Hey, and
you
then
know,
from that point, you were in, right? You
right.
got one
Yeah.
under your belt, and
Yeah. Yeah. You can start getting, you start getting a little bit better at it. And of course, as I got real estate agents and I had a track record, it was easier to attract other real estate agents. And of course, those real estate agents knew some hard money lenders and that kind of thing. So, because, when I started, I didn't know what hard money was.
yeah.
So, again, networking, it was very important then, and it's super important now. It's just, the playing field is a little bit different,
Yeah. Wow. Ooh, so this one I'm gonna ask, kind of probably from like when you got started, I guess. Well, actually, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what is your drive and vision for the long term?
Yeah, well, again, it's having been in it and out of it twice, right?
Yeah.
So now, the fact that I'm getting close to retirement age, the drive is to really, my goal is to, within 5 to 7 years, is to create somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 a month in passive income. And mainly that's going to be done by, cash flow rentals, hard money lending, and buying notes that sellers have that they've financed. So over the long term, the flips that I do really to build capital
Yep.
in order to buy rentals with positive cash flow, and do some lending, either through hard money and buying notes. So the drive there is to basically enhance, the retirement thing, build a business. I have a son who's 23, and hoping that, he does stuff with me now, and I'm hoping that as we build it, he may be able to take it on. So that's kind of the drive, is to, sit on a beach knowing that the money is being generated, and building at the same time to leave a legacy for the family.
Wow. That's incredible. So has your son kind of like taken an interest in it, like just the concept of like passive income and stuff, and like
I don't know if he's really got that yet.
yeah.
But he definitely does stuff with me, and he has seen the process, all the way through, climbing over piles of crap in junk houses, and shining the granite countertops on the day that it's going to be sold. So he's been through the whole process, and he does another type of work, which is an hourly pay. And I think already that idea of
Climbing the ladder.
40 years of this,
Yeah.
is that something that people actually do? I think he's already got that idea. So I'm not pushing it, but I think he's a pretty smart guy, and I think it becomes more obvious to him. He'll definitely be into it as he goes. Because I can already tell he's kind of like, geez, 40 hours and that's all I get. And it takes all of us that, right? I
It
mean,
does. Mm-hmm.
17 and you're like, oh, I got a job. This is great. I'm throwing French fries at people or something, and then
Yeah.
slowly as time goes on, you say, hey, wait a minute, is this all there is? So anyway, yeah, I'm hoping that I can build a legacy there for the family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
That's definitely like really cool, that he can kind of see that, like
yeah,
especially this young, have like so much time to build and
right.
um
Oh my God, I just think, oh my God, if somebody laid all this on my countertop when I was 24, oh my God, I'd own the freaking world, you know. uh, but that's life, right? You got to learn things and find it at your own time and build it in your own pace, right? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it definitely, just kind of comes along, I guess. I feel like, when you're ready for it, like it's just one of those things that like you just kind of find out about it like at the right time.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You may hear about it a couple of times and it doesn't make that much of an impression. And then as your life goes on, a few things change and it clicks, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So,
Wow. So stemming back to something you said a couple minutes ago about like building the capital from the flips to then
yeah.
put into like buy and holds and stuff. I
Hmm.
always thought that was like the most interesting thing in the world, to just like take an asset that's being built, liquidate it and then be able to put that into another asset and literally just keep building over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. And to me, again, flips are good, obviously, and they're a profitable thing. But particularly because if I were 40, I might say, hey, I'll flip for another 20 years.
Yeah.
But I'm in my 60s. I'm not going to do that. And I've learned even since I came back in 17, when I came back to doing this, looking at the hard money guys I was getting money from, right? They charge 12%. So, I'm getting a $300,000 loan. The guy's getting $3,000 a month. Plus he charged me 3 points up front, right? So he makes, on a year on a $300,000 loan, he makes like $40,000, right? More than that. I'm not doing the numbers out in my head,
Yeah.
but so I started thinking to myself, hey, you turn that capital around once a year, you get a couple of these loans moving. And as far as I'm concerned, there's not a lot of risk because if the flip goes sideways, what's the worst that can happen? I take it back
Yeah,
and I do
exactly.
it, right? So, oh, gee, what a bummer. Um, you know,
Yeah.
um, so maybe some people would consider hard money lending fairly high risk, but because I'm familiar with flips, I don't consider it that much of a risk because
Yeah.
if the guy truly defaulted and couldn't pay, and I had to foreclose on the property, so I get a flip that was part way done.
Yep.
And even if it was done badly, I could probably,
Turn
turn
it
it
around.
around and get a profit from it, right? Or
Yeah.
wholesale it to somebody else and just get my money out, So I started to see that, uh, that type of hard money, having a good big chunk of capital to put into a couple of hard money loans every year, and get that moving all the time. In addition to some rentals, because they obviously appreciate in value, and long term they can build. And then back in the 80s, when I did this, I did also buy a couple of notes. One of the guys that came through town
Yeah.
at some point talked about buying discounted mortgages, right? So his whole deal was he looked for mortgages that were held by sellers when they sold the house, and he would buy those notes from them at a discount, and then he'd be making 10, 12% on that money. And so I was very interested in that back then, and I'm hoping to do that as well. And again, the risk is that I may have to take the worst case scenario is I would have to take the property back.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. I'm not a bank. I don't, I know what to do with it. So it's not a risk,
Yeah.
So that's, and I think that's a good blend for me down the road of passive income from different sources, spread out a little bit so that not all the eggs are in one basket, and it can still grow over time.
That's a really cool position to be in, to be able to like lend that money. And like you said, if things go south, you've been flipping for years.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, is it really that bad?
I mean, even if some egghead comes in and completely butches a renovation, right? So what do? You just gut the thing and start over, and you've got all your money, you got your money back. Or you just wholesale it to somebody else and you have your money back. So, okay.
And you still make money.
I'll take that risk.
Sure.
And maybe you wholesale it and loan the money to that guy.
Yeah. Make money twice.
So, I mean, it's, there is risk, of course, but I think it's a manageable amount of risk, especially for that kind of return.
Yeah, that's honestly a huge eye opener, and just to see like a principle like that, in like maybe different areas of real estate, like figuring out like potentials, for multiple ways to get paid.
Right.
And like if things in your first plan go south, then, how can you make a way to maybe still make a return on that second or third, situation.
Sure.
That sounds like a really, yeah. Getting tongue tied trying to talk about it. Yeah. It sounds so interesting, like just to like kind of structure something like that.
Yeah. Like I said, when I started looking at the, current hard money lenders that I was dealing with, when I came back and started flipping, the first loan I got was, $350 or something, right? So the guy was getting $3,500 a month for a year, and he charged me 3 points up front. So we got $9,000 up front, right? So he made, almost 40,000 in payments, and then a nine grand in points. And he's guaranteed that in a year or less, he's going to get all that money back, and he can do it again.
Or a property.
And I started to say, man, that's a place to be. I wouldn't do it as my sole thing, but I certainly would do it in the right circumstances for the right properties. The points up front, geez, you
perfect.
So anyway, so it's, I think for me and my style, those three sources of income passively are a good blend. Hopefully I can get there. Of course, I'm some distance from that. I've got to do a good number of flips before I have that capital to really start pushing out there. And that's why I'm not doing any buy and holds at the moment, because I just want to build that capital.
Yep. Wow. How has it been, I guess, recently, like looking for off markets and stuff?
Yeah, it's like everybody says, of course, it's been a challenge, man. We were going full steam ahead like everybody in February of last year. And then, March, they said, okay, well, things are closing down for 2 weeks. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously we don't have to talk about where the hell that went. Ooh, I don't know if
that's all right. That's okay.
But in any event, it definitely was harder. I think between March of last year and really into the fall, it was brutal, because very little was going on. And then, you couldn't really see houses for a while. Yeah. And then once properties started to come back on the market, of course, the buyers who had been waiting in the wings just made the demand, go
ridiculous
through the roof. Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's really a seller's market, and most people are aware of that. So, it's definitely tougher. And we got caught with a few things we did in the fall. For a while, lumber was hard to get, right? And it was more expensive.
Mhm.
And, one of the things we were doing up in Nashua in New Hampshire, the reno was pretty much done, but we had to wait almost 7 weeks for the kitchen cabinets because the
Oh,
manufacturer had closed down, right? So their pipeline. So there's 7 weeks of holding costs that just
weren't there.
came out of the air,
Yeah.
right? So we've been careful, and we usually build a 10 or 15% contingency into our plans, but lately I've been building a 30% contingency, and that makes it kind of hard sometimes to really get a number that a seller is going to want.
Yeah.
So it's been tougher for sure. You know,
Yeah, it definitely has been quite the challenge.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, some guys that are bigger than me that have had much more time in the business and have more referrals and things like that still crank along better than I'm doing, but it's been a challenge for everybody. I mean, they're getting more deals, but they're passing on a lot of deals as well. So
yeah.
uh,
Hopefully, things kind of
yeah,
start to
I don't
change a
know
little
how
bit.
or when, but it's
Yeah.
got to break sooner or later.
Eventually.
Yeah, I mean, so we definitely had some head scratching going on, and we are being a little more careful about how we budget things and how we, contingencies we build in. But
Yeah. What are you
sooner
gonna
or
do, right?
later,
Yeah.
something's going to happen. I don't know exactly what. And if anybody does know, please put me in touch with them.
Yeah. Me too. Wow. Yeah, right. That's super interesting though. Not to kind of like, get into I guess like a specific strategy and stuff, obviously, but what kind of like prospecting and stuff, do you guys like to do like letters or cold calls or what's kind
Uh,
of your forte?
Never did cold calls. Absolutely hate cold calls.
Yeah, I feel you.
And yet I know guys that do it all the time. Well, they have people do it for them,
Yeah.
and they have success. Never did it. Never cared for it. Don't like when I get them, and I kind of transfer that over to that idea. But I've done a lot of direct mail over the years, and that's been the main source of my deals for a long time. And in the last year or so, um, just after COVID hit, really, I started to build my online presence, and so I hired some SEO guys and tried to figure out exactly what it takes to get people to move towards a website. So we've been building that, and try to use that in addition to direct mail.
Mhm.
And so now, as opposed to before, where the direct mail was just that was the way to close the deal and get the lead and then close the deal.
Mhm.
Now a lot of the direct mail pushes them towards the website, and so we're testing to see if we can make that marriage into something that is going to generate not automatically but regularly
Yeah.
over time. So it's not there yet, but we've learned a ton in a short time, and we're continually refining it. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that it can be something in the future. So those are really the two main ones. Um, I'm a bit old fashioned. I still do bandit signs.
Nice.
And I get leads, which is sometimes amazing. But probably the best thing I've gotten out of bandit signs is other investors call me. Hey, I saw you sign outside of Costco. You got any properties? Well, I don't have one right now, but give me all your info, and I'll put you on my list. And as soon as one hits, if I want to wholesale it, I'll call you. And so I've built my buyers list through bandit signs. So um, I'm not real crazy about running around on Sundays and tacking them up, but My
Yeah.
son, that's something my son and I do together, and we kind of make it into an adventure. But
Yeah.
it it works. It's another form of getting your message out there. And like I said, I've probably gotten at least 10. I've gotten tons of calls from investors, but I probably got like 10 investors that are real solid guys that are worth having. So
Yeah.
and the price is like $200, right? So
That's
for
pretty
the
good.
signs and some time for the signs, and the rest is just time, right?
Yeah.
So
You
those are
definitely,
really those three things been our mainstay.
yeah, you definitely can't beat that. I've definitely, called and texted a few of those signs that I've saw, just
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
kind of shoot the breeze and stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah. I've met some good people by them. It's amazing. That was something I didn't expect when I started putting them up, and man, I love it. It's
It's
great.
pretty cool though, just to
Yeah,
see like, yeah, like a totally completely different result.
yeah,
That's also helping you out like in the inverse, like and building
right.
a buyer's list as well as, bringing leads in and stuff.
Yeah, and particularly in COVID, I used to go monthly to a bunch of the local real estate investment group
Yep.
meetings, right? And so you could meet people there and see who was who, and that went away last year. So over that time, the bandit sign calls I've gotten from investors has been awesome.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I a lot of people kind of chuckle when I tell them that, but I get a chuckle out of it too. But I still do it. It's still worthwhile at the moment.
Yeah, of course. It's like you said, it is a little old fashioned, but if it still works, then it works. There's no reason to stop it, right?
Yeah, and not that many people are doing it, at least
Yeah.
around here. If you drive around, I think I probably only see one or two other people with signs. So I don't have a lot of competition. So hey,
Why
can't
not?
argue with that, right? You know.
Yep. Now, a question for you about the like the mailers. Is there a way that you like track the mailers? So I send out I've been sending out like letters and stuff for a while, like to
Yeah,
people I can't get phone numbers for.
yeah,
And like I've tried a couple different ways to like track that like metric, like
yeah.
responses to however many sent out and try and get a ratio or something, but I haven't
Right.
really found a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. It's kind of hard.
I guess
you
it
know?
depends on the list too. The two
Yeah.
lists that I've used the most are pre-foreclosures, which a lot of people don't do, but actually that's something my son does for me. We build those lists ourselves out of the registry of deeds because you can access that stuff online now. So I took my old school knowledge and applied it. So we do pre-foreclosures, and we also do absentee owners that are out of state. So when we mail, you read many things, and I've actually seen it sort of hold up. A 1% response is pretty typical, right? So, sometimes my mailing will get better than that, and sometimes it gets slightly less. Um, but I use that sort of as a baseline expectation.
Yeah.
Um, but we are fairly active when we get mailing pieces back because there's no address there and stuff. I've used Fiverr and other places to have people skip trace for me,
Oh, okay.
and that can be pretty inexpensive. And the beauty to that is if you do track somebody down, chances are not that many people have tracked them down, right? So you may not have as much
Competition.
competition. Um, and that way, and I always mail when I pull a list and start mailing it. I plan on doing at least 6 touches,
Gotcha.
and you can go all over the internet and see different things. And the thing that stuck in my mind in reading about that was fortune is in the follow-up. People say, right? And so there's a lot of guys that mail once or twice and then don't mail anymore, right? So um, I've gotten my best leads off of things that were the fifth mailing or the sixth mailing, and I'm actually debating right now. I had done a 6-touch mailing before Christmas. I'm actually debating mailing that list again for touch 7, 8, 9, and 10 to
Yeah.
see, just to really push it out there and see if it, test it to see if it means anything. But I measure it against, number of pieces to response. And then usually the standard number that I've used, and I think a lot of people use for mailings, is that, if you get 50 responses from that, and some of those responses might be, take me off your mailing list, you jerk,
Yep.
but it is a response.
It is.
uh,
Yep.
but out of 50 responses, there's maybe 20 that are okay that you want to investigate. And out of those 20, maybe one of them turns into a deal.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I use. And again, you just weigh it. How much does it cost me to mail these numbers, versus how much one deal makes? And, it's usually worth it. I know some people that do different lists, but those 2 lists have been pretty good for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, there definitely is, quite the power with like the direct mail. I only kind of started getting into it probably like 6 months ago or something. And, just from like just doing it, like all the time and just keeping it in, like once in a while, like you'll get something on your phone, like, oh, hey, I saw your letter. It's
Yeah.
like the craziest thing in the world, like
Yeah. It's I love that feeling. It's like,
it's
hey,
crazy.
I threw some bait out on the water,
Yeah.
and this fish just jumped up and grabbed it, right? It's a beautiful feeling. It's nice to know that it goes out there and it lands in somebody's hands, and
Yeah.
it makes a connection enough with them to get them to get in touch with you. So it's a good feeling.
Yeah, for a while, I wasn't sure if they were actually like getting to the properties because I
Right.
didn't have a return address on it. Because
Oh,
like I
okay.
still live with my parents and stuff, so I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna do that. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't actually sure, if they were getting there because I wouldn't get them back. I was like, oh, I kind of hope they are. And then
Right.
eventually somebody responded. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you could use a PO box, or mail, mailboxes, et cetera, something like that as an address. And
True, yeah.
you can kind of get around that. Yeah. Um, there's one here in Tingsboro. I always get the names mixed up because they're all very similar, but like $100 a year, they give you a post office box in there, and as opposed to it saying PO box, it says X number, street, um, suite number 202, which happens to be the PO box number. So it
Yeah.
looks more like an address.
Then just a
So
PO box.
yeah. So
That's really cool. Yeah, I'll
that
have to
can,
look into it.
that, yeah, that can work. I know UPS does it too. A few places do it. But yeah, that works. Kind of can give you that, bit of added credibility.
Yeah. And then, I imagine that you're able to, take some of the letters or whatever it is and use them again, right? For the
Oh
ones that you
yeah,
do get back.
sure. Yeah. Well, it depends. A lot of times I like to, I try to personalize them a bit by
Yeah.
injecting in their first name into the text of the letter.
Hmm.
And a lot of times I will inject, the address of the property that I'm looking to buy. So some of those, in those mailers, you really can't use them over, but
Yeah.
um, some of them you can, again, depending on the format that you use,
Yep.
you know, but again, I just, I've done mailings in the, like I said, I might plan a six touch mailing, and I get nothing out of the first 3, and I'm like, geez, are these getting there?
Yeah.
What's going on? Did I completely, whiff on the content of this letter,
Yeah.
whatever the case might be. And then on the 4th touch, I, get a couple of calls and it'll be like, oh, okay, well,
All right, good.
yeah. So, you know, it's everybody will tell you with mail, it's a numbers game.
It is.
You just gotta keep it out there and hopefully find the right lists and find the right people.
Yep. Eventually something's gonna hit, right?
Right. Yeah.
Eventually.
COVID makes, that's another thing COVID makes a little less predictable, but it has to hit sooner or later. It is a numbers game.
Yep. Definitely. Ooh, so to jump into number 4, what do you consider to be the biggest variable to expand your clientele?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about it already. I think
Mhm.
really networking is a variable that to me is super important. And depending on how you define marketing, networking could be marketing, right? Because you might be talking to a real estate agent like yourself that you become known as somebody who's a cash buyer and buys the crappiest looking thing on the block. Somewhere down the road they call and say, hey, this thing is a dump, I don't even want to walk in it, do you want to look at it? Great. So
Yep.
you've marketed right
Yeah.
there. And so I would say networking. Again, you build a buyer's list if you're intending to wholesale properties. You go to real estate investor meetings, which again have been off the table, but you can do Zoom like this for, as the equivalent of that kind of thing. So I would say the biggest variable for me is networking. And sometimes you get lazy, you don't want to meet people, oh gee, it's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night in February, do I really want to go to this meeting?
Yeah.
And you push yourself out the door, and lo and behold, you meet a buyer at that night, an investor who's looking to buy a wholesale deal off you or something, so networking is critical. And for me and the type of person I am, I need some discipline to do it because it's not my natural go-to kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. It definitely is, a super powerful thing.
Yeah,
And the thing that worries me at this point too is like, I mean, it only takes like one conversation with somebody to change your entire life.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
like, if you decide not to go to that meeting, like, you could have just totally avoided something like so much bigger
Yeah.
than like yourself, you know what I mean? Like that bothers me now. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
shoot,
Yeah.
like,
And it's
you
funny
know,
you say that, because right out of the gate, when I came back to doing this in 2017, I had a friend that I kind of started pretty much the same time as me down in New Jersey. And, he called me one day. We're only a couple of months in and, going to the investor meetings and doing all that. He had met a real estate agent at an investors meeting, and he got a wholesale deal off the guy right then
wow.
at the meeting. And as it turned out, over the next 2 years, he got 28 deals out of this guy.
Oh my God.
And I was like, dude, what's up? Like, we started at the same time. You're not supposed to be nearly this freaking
Yeah.
successful, So that taught me a lesson right off the bat. It's like, holy mackerel. So you hit it on the head. It doesn't take much to change things, and it can happen at any given time for any, no reason at all, just being in the right place and talking to the right people.
Yeah. It's really crazy the things that can happen like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So
it's nuts.
stay in it, to me, and networking is the key. The more people the more people that you put yourself out there saying, I'm looking for property, I'm a cash buyer, I'm ready to buy the junkiest thing in town, put a clothespin on my nose and walk through.
Yep.
It doesn't hurt. 99 people might say no, but that 100th person might be the one with the 28 properties.
Yep. Exactly.
Man, was I pissed at him. I was like, geez, dude, I can't compare to that in any shape or form, but Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, totally to your point. What was it? I forget what I was just gonna say. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is, just super crazy how powerful networking is altogether. And, it really is nuts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And I'm not one of those guys, but I've learned for me, it was a learning experience and a craft that I
Yeah.
had to kind of build because, it's not my thing. I'd rather sit in the corner and play a guitar by myself, and not talk to anybody. But
I'm the same way. I feel you.
yeah, but as soon as I got back in it, I realized it is something I have to be doing.
Yep.
So,
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Stemming back to what you said earlier about, I guess I don't know how to describe it. I guess how it was, a couple of years ago.
yeah, yeah.
um,
A couple decades ago.
like, would you say that it's never really been like easier than it is now to like meet people and stuff? Like,
I,
I'm just trying to perceive, like just meeting like, one person like in person, and then, like they drag their friend over who happens to be like an agent, or, like
yeah,
a loan officer or something, like, just
I
being able to hop on
I
social
think
media.
it's easier without COVID in the picture.
Yeah.
The just the number of available real estate investor meetings and stuff, and the ease which you can go on Meetup and find out where they are and
Yep.
get into them. That's tremendous. I mean, again, back in the day, really your only introduction to them, if you didn't have friends or family that were in the business, the only introduction to the business was through realtors for the most part. And so your networking possibilities had to start and finish there. But
Yeah.
now it's great. You just log into Meetup. Okay, where's the real estate investor meetings? What's the topic this month? Is it something I want to go to? Am I going to go anyway just for meeting people?
Yeah.
And there were 3 or 4 that I wouldn't go to every one every month, but there were 3 or 4 that I could kind of pick and choose from. And again, met great people out of all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, the real estate meetups are definitely a very crazy place to be. This is a lot of like really, really cool people, who definitely, would love to hear your story and stuff like that, and, kind of help you out and stuff. And it's nuts, like just the amount of people and stuff that you meet there, and just being in the right atmosphere,
Yep. Yep. And most of the time, you might be nervous if you're beginning and stuff like that. And, most of the time I found most guys are just like, hey, come on, and they take you under their wing, and the people that don't, you wouldn't want to deal with them anyway. So just,
Exactly.
blow it off.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, most guys are pretty generous with their time and their knowledge. I would say maybe if you're investing in the exact same town as them, maybe they won't be as
Yeah.
forthcoming. But for the most part, most people know. I think the guys that are the most successful, and I'm still working on this, I think, is the guys that feel like it doesn't matter who my competition is because there's enough out there for everybody.
Yep.
Those are the guys that are most successful because they have a positive mindset, right? And they feel like, I'm out there, I can do my thing, and I can, despite the competition, for the most part, I can still do what I want to do. And they're the good ones to know.
Yeah, it really is. It was definitely an eye opener to see like how many people there are like that.
Yeah.
In our industry, like,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, I mean, like if you're around the right people, I guess it's not necessarily, like this super cutthroat competitive like thing.
Right.
Like the majority of investors actually like really want to help each other out.
Yeah.
Like we're all in this together, and like you said, there's definitely enough of the pie for everybody.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
if,
And the guys that aren't like that, forget about it.
exactly. It's not
Why
worth
waste
it.
your time with them?
Yeah.
And they're out there too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you don't
It
need them.
definitely, it definitely is. I totally, agree with you about, just the guys who are like super positive and, like want to help people out and stuff are the ones that make it really far.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like hearing
agree.
some of the other, people that I've interviewed on the show, are doing like really crazy things. And it's just out of like being like a super genuine person and like genuinely caring for people and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy to see that,
Yeah.
and it's,
It's
yeah,
good because it puts you at ease and
it does. Yeah.
gives you faith in mankind.
Yeah, it does. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It really does. Ooh, Jack, what is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
Yeah. Um, I guess that I have to say probably keeping an open mind. And that is an open mind in many ways.
Mhm.
In a flip, you've got a direction that you're going. You get curveballs inevitably. Every flip has, situations you didn't anticipate. You keep an open mind, you figure out a solution, you move forward. Um, as far as learning, you keep an open mind. Again, when I started back in 17, I started doing direct mail and all of that. And it was doing some stuff for me, but I wanted to make it better. So I started to learn about SEO and, going online. And so, and it hasn't paid a ton of dividends yet, I got to say, but I kind of have some faith that it will, because I see some guys that I know having success with it in other parts of the country. And I went there only by keeping an open mind.
Yep.
It wasn't like, you know, damn it, direct mail's it. I'm doing direct mail until the day I die. It was like,
Yeah.
so I would say keeping an open mind all the way around to what you can learn, the techniques you use in your business, and who you deal with and how you deal with them.
Yeah. That's super valuable overall. It's crazy. Like, just, like you said, keeping an open mind and like, maybe trying things that like you might not before, like you're doing with the SEO,
Yeah,
marketing and stuff. Like, what if that turns out to be like a really crazy lead generator?
right,
And like you never would have knew if, like just the direct mail was like that's just your thing, like that's all you're doing. I
right,
mean, obviously, it would probably be fair to kind of stick with what works, but also have an open mind to try like, like newer stuff. And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and open mind allows you to say, "What if?" Well, what if?
exactly.
What
Yeah.
if besides direct mail, I can have another source of leads?
Hmm.
Um, or what if my kitchen cabinets aren't coming? What else can I do at this point in time?
I find the conversations that start with what if to be very, very interesting and unique.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
love
agree.
those conversations.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. You get the right people, and you come up with, you build on each other's brainstorming, and you get some great stuff going.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely that's the best way to start a conversation. What if?
Mm.
Yeah. Ooh, this is another one that usually hits kind of hard. How do you define wealth?
That's actually pretty easy for me. And again, going back to my backstory and stuff, I was very interested in music,
Yeah.
always have been. So for me, wealth is basically the freedom to use my time in any way that I see fit.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with money per se,
Yeah.
except for the fact that, money buys you that freedom, right? because we all still have to pay the bills. So I would say my definition is really arriving at a point where I'm in complete control over how I use my time.
Yeah. It really is, just super crazy to have that abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be able to really take control of your life altogether,
Yeah.
and just be able to enjoy the most of it and not be like tied down by anything. Or
It's probably a beautiful thing.
it probably is someday.
And I try to visualize it. Some days it's harder than others
Yeah.
to visualize, but I keep it in. That's really what it's been all about from the beginning. So, that one is an easy answer for me.
Yeah. What are the most effective resources that have helped you the most so far on your journey? I know we talked a good amount about like the networking and stuff and
Yeah.
keeping an open mind and everything, which are phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, again, keeping an open mind to what's available on, online these days.
Yeah.
You can build your entire business around what you find, in terms of making comps and, making connections, getting to meetings, doing all that stuff. You can start all online. So I'd have to say that, the best resource is using the internet wisely, and, it's try not to spend 6 hours a day down the YouTube rabbit hole, but you use it to, better yourself and your business, and find ways to get the information that you need. So I would say online access and effectively defining what you need to learn in your business and then going and getting it online is probably the best resource that I can think of.
Yeah. I really like, hearing that from, someone who's kind of seeing, I guess what it was before, like trying to do this before the internet, was what it was today, and as well as
Yeah.
seeing what it is now,
I'm laughing because it's, we really like to hear that from a guy who was basically walking the earth with dinosaurs.
I'm not calling you old, Jack. I'm calling you experienced.
I know.
Oh man. What is something that you thought about business, networking, or wealth creation that changed as you went along?
Oh boy. Well, I think in the beginning, a lot of times, it certainly was for me, particularly because my long-term goal was a recording studio and not necessarily success in building a business in real estate off the bat.
Yeah.
What changed over time is understanding that it's a long-term commitment,
Mm-hmm.
and the steps that you take, even though they may seem hard and they may seem slow in the beginning or whatever the case might be, they are building blocks to something bigger that lands down the road. And I kind of equate that to when I was a bit younger, I wanted to challenge myself to run a half marathon. And so, I go out on a Sunday and I run 4 miles, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. How am I ever going to do 13.1 miles? I can't even do 4 without dying. And you learn, okay, it's a long-term commitment, right? It takes time. And so I think for me, understanding that longer game, and certainly being focused on the present, but frame it in a longer range plan and a longer range hope for a destination that's someplace better. I think that's probably what changed the most over time. because in the beginning, I just like, let's hurry up, get this done. I just want to be done. I want profits and I want to move on.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't, that doesn't work. So I would have to say that, you set a goal and then you look at each step as a building block to the long range goal,
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely is. I couldn't agree more. It's really crazy to see like, like the small term wins that like don't really seem like much. And
Yeah.
then, they start to compound on each other. And,
Right.
all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're hitting these like really crazy goals and everything. And like, things are really starting to move forward.
Yeah.
Just from small steps, like all the
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely. And you got to recognize those small steps because, you can get discouraged and people drop out of the game because they don't see enough of a return in the short term. And again, like I said, that for me, having it framed in a long range goal,
Yeah.
it really changed how I looked at things and how I work to build stuff.
Yeah, it definitely, kind of keeps your head high when things aren't the best,
Yeah,
just to kind of
absolutely.
see like, all right, I need to get through this to be able to get to this.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
give up now.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. And let's see here. Ooh, what is a common myth about building a portfolio that you want to debunk?
Um, hmm. Well, I don't necessarily, as we mentioned, I don't hold any, property, so I don't have a portfolio in that regard.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if I have a lot to say there.
Mhm.
I think, my plan is more about passive cash flow. And so, um, I think I can make it work. So I don't know what I can debunk, to be
It's
honest,
not a bad thing.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily know if I have a real answer for that one, to be
No, that's
honest.
okay. That's not bad at all.
Okay.
That's a great thing.
All right.
Ooh, and last but not least, Jack, do you read? And what is your favorite business investing or real estate book that you would
Yeah.
recommend to anyone?
Good
Or, a
questions.
podcast or the audio tapes?
Cassettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna recommend your all of your listeners go and buy some cassettes.
I
Um,
want to. I want to go find those. Hopefully they're on eBay or Amazon or
yeah.
something. I want to listen to
Um,
those.
yeah, I do read, and I've read for a long time. Most of the stuff that I found very foundational that helped me build from the beginning
Yeah.
are older things that maybe aren't quite as known to people now, because it was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot of things back then from Brian Tracy, who was a salesman slash motivational speaker, and he taught me tons about setting goals. And before that, I really was flapping in the wind until I learned how to create goals and stick with goals and break them down into bite-sized pieces and get them accomplished. So Brian Tracy was a big influence on me. Norman Vincent Peale, who was somewhat of had a religious slant to things, which wasn't really my thing, but he was very much a positive thinker. And uh, I needed that. I needed that very much. And so I learned from that back in the day. More recently, there's a number of flipping podcasts that I listen to. I listen to Flipping Junkie, listen to Bigger Pockets.
Mhm.
They've got crazy good stuff in a lot of different areas. Those are two. Another one that I got a lot from was recent podcast is Flip to Freedom, flip number 2 freedom.
Mhm.
That's been a good one for me. I find some great info on that, and learned a lot about doing direct mail from that guy. in, a few years back when I was getting started, and really learned some good things from him. And the book that I've read most recently and am learning from is Atomic Habits
Ooh,
by a guy,
okay. Yep.
yeah, by a guy named James Clear. Um, and he's all about, you define things that you want to change about yourself, and he's all about breaking those things down and making it easy to make small fundamental changes that become part of a bigger thing. And so I've been reading that. It's not a book you read from beginning to end and then put on the shelf. It's more or less one of those things you read a little bit, you try to practice what it says. You may not read it for 2 months, and then you come back and look at it again. So I keep that one on the desk, actually, and I've read different parts of it a number of times, and that's a good one. I recommend that one to a lot of people. He's a pretty bright guy. Knows a lot about the psychology of how our brains tick, and what can really make habits lock in and become good habits. So I would say James Clear.
That book is a really good one. That's one that I have to kind of resort back to, because I kind of read it once and like really, really liked it, but I just kind of, closed it and, went to the next book. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
it's
Same with
tough.
me.
Yeah, it's kind of tough sometimes, because like with those books, like I'm reading like Traction right now, and it's another one, that's just like that. Like there's so much in there,
right,
that like you have to like really centralize on like, even certain chapters, like certain pages, like to figure out how to implement these things and find them in yourself and stuff. And
I agree.
So packed with information. It's so like useful too.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, there's a few pages, not even 100 pages into that James Clear book. There's a few pages I probably read like 40 times.
Yeah.
And just those 2 pages, and I've tried to experiment. I don't know yet. I've tried to experiment with the audio version of the book, and try to play them sometimes in the car when I'm in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
To just sort of pummel my brain with that information and hopefully have it sink in,
Yeah, I haven't really looked into audiobooks too much. Like I've thought about it, but like I like to have the book in front of me and like highlight the ever-living anything out of it.
You're a rare breed for a younger guy.
I like to buy the book. In person,
I agree. I completely agree. The only reason again, since COVID, I don't drive a tenth of what I used to drive. So I'm not using, that's really the only time I wouldn't sit in the house and play a book.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but I did experiment with them while driving, just because it hits you from a different perspective. But I'm very much a, pen and paper guy. So I like the feel of the book and the, put notes in the margin and put yellow marker
sticky notes and stuff.
Yeah.
And and highlighting and everything.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least for me, it absorbs a lot more. Like it just it hits different.
Sure. That's cool, man. I gotta say, because I worked in a school system for a number of years, and I knew a lot of high school age kids that then graduated, and I would run into over time. And most people in the last 10 years that are coming out of school, the actual physical book is not that much of a thing for them.
Yeah.
So you're a rarer breed, but you kind of, the same reasons that I like them, you seem to like them as well.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, cool. It's just like reading a book like on a screen. It doesn't like work the same way. I just kind of look at it, like it doesn't like hit,
Right.
But
yeah,
when you're actually like flipping the pages, it's like, oh, okay.
Right. Or you flip a page and then you're like, wait a minute, what was on the page before?
Yeah.
And you can just flip right back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, that's good. It's
Yep.
good stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check out those two people that you mentioned a couple minutes ago, and see what kind of stuff they have, as well as like some of the podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, depending on where you're at and what you want to learn,
Yeah.
Brian Tracy was a great one for me. Norman Vincent Peale, like I said, not everybody's cup of tea because he had a religious slant, which was fine with me, but it wasn't the reason I gravitated there. It was really more about the fact that he was just such a positive thinker.
Yeah.
And helped you move through the challenges that life throws everybody. But those are old school. Those are definitely old school.
Perfect. Awesome.
That's when you had to buy 40 pounds of cassettes.
I'm going to find them, Jack, and I'm going to let you know.
Well, I think Brian Tracy was very, Brian Tracy was very mainstream. So I don't think it'll be that hard to find him.
Yeah.
I think he's probably still, I think his books are probably still for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll definitely have to keep my eyes peeled. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on here, Jack. It really was
my
a pleasure.
Man. Yeah, we had some good laughs. It's great. I think it's awesome you're doing this, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
I hope my rambling wasn't too far afield. So
no, it was phenomenal. You have a really great story, and it's such a pleasure to hear it.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And again, super, creds to you for jumping on this and getting a podcast rolling. And you're already on, what'd you say, episode 26. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Man, can go nothing but up from there. So that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Last but not least, Jack, where can you be found on like social media?
Okay.
Business,
yeah. I don't have them memorized. So the website that we use, which is the one that we're building SEO, is Summit, SUMMIT, summitbuyshouses.com. So pretty simple on that. And as far as all the Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, probably is it okay if I just forward that to you? Because I don't necessarily remember them all.
Yeah, that's okay. I can just put them in like the description and stuff.
Super.
Guys,
yeah,
go check
those
out.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'll forward that to you. But summitbuyshouses.com, that's the site we're building based on the SEO techniques that we're learning. And that's really the best place to see where it's at. And it's got phone numbers there that people can reach me if they want to reach me. So awesome. Yeah, let's stay in touch. This was great.
Let's definitely do that. All right. Thank you again very much, Jack.
Cool, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. That concludes our Creating Wealth podcast episode for today. I want to thank every single person that has listened this far. It really means a lot to know that people can learn from me and with me as we build wealth together. Hopefully you can take home at least one thing from this podcast that will improve your life just a little bit. If you could, please check me out on social. That's at Kyle Curtin Real Estate on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on Bigger Pockets. Until next time, let's build together.